has done it. You have done it. As both of my friends who are international students from Singapore, you guys broke into VC in another country. And you specifically were able to start Genesis Fund when you were just an undergrad in Babson. Jules, welcome to the podcast, man.
Zhuo, thank you very much for having me, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about your journey from really the beginning of being interested in VC to right now at Genesis?
My journey started in Southeast Asia. I moved around a lot in Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, China for a bit. And as a Singaporean, you are forced to serve them in national service. So when I graduated high school from Malaysia, I went back to Singapore, joined the Singapore police force. 2 months in, I ended up getting a stage 4 cancer that put me in the hospital for around 8 months. And so I went through the whole chemotherapy and all of that. And so obviously doing that, I got let off from the military service. And so I had this block of time before I started college to kind of explore. And so I joined this private equity fund called Capital that was launching a $220 million VC fund across Europe and Southeast Asia, specifically investing in agricultural technology, mobility, and the circular economy. And that experience where I spent 4 months there made me fall in love with the industry. And so when I got to Babson College, my sole goal was, how do I go join the best VCs in the world and start investing in the technologies of tomorrow? And so my strategy for the 4 years was, okay, who are my favorite investors? Sequoia, headline. Who are their portfolio companies? And let me go work for them. And so in my junior year of college, for example, I left Babson College for 6 months, took a leap of faith, moved to Paris to work for El Mehdi Hashad and Hamza Santisi, who run Elin, which was a Sequoia and headline-backed company. And I joined as the CEO's right-hand / founder's associate. But I realized that was taking a long time. That was a slow way to break into VC. And so when I met Andre Kirby, Ben Gardner, Logan Hine, and Yusuf Rezkala, the core team that started Genesis Fund back in November of 2024, it made sense that there was a gap in the Boston market where Boston VCs have missed Mercor, Microsoft, Facebook, Stripe, Cursor. And there's some of the best talent in the country in this city. So why is the early stage, the pre-seed stage, not getting the funding from this city? So we recognized that gap. We looked at ourselves and we understood that we were the best people to do this. We have the best access in Boston to the best talent and the best startups. So instead of joining the best funds, let's just build the best fund. And so in January of 2025, we started fundraising with the goal of raising $2 million to invest in student startups. Fundraising has gone tremendously well, and we've oversubscribed to 5 million with still the same strategy of investing in the best visionary student founders in the Boston ecosystem. And we're here today now with 4 investments under our wing and trying to take Boston first and then the whole country eventually.
Yeah, and especially at the start when, you had cancer. That's just like something where no one else really experiences and you really get like a reawakening. I guess that's why, you really are like someone who risks everything, where you flew to Paris just to work with a company that is backed by Sequoia. And no one really does that. Like no one will actually just move to another country just to work with a startup. Working at a startup is already tons of risk in itself. And you've done it. Especially when you move to a new location, you really don't have that much connections, right? What was your network building strategy when you came to the US as an international student?
When you're told you have a stage 4 cancer at 18 and you're told there's a 50-50 chance that you'll live for the next 5 years, it creates a hunger that is unsurmountable, that is uncomparable. You only realize the value of your life when it's about to be taken away. And so following that, my drive and my ambition became insane. And I think having the privilege and the opportunity to have lived in many different places, unlike many Singaporeans, has increased my risk appetite immensely. Like Singapore is known as a place where everything is stable. Family offices are comfortable making their 10, 15% a year, and they're not going to go for the 100x bets. Um, the exposure to so many different cultures and the willingness to just move whatever has given me just crazy risk appetite. And in VC, if you don't have risk appetite, it's all about risky capital. Building my network in Boston stemmed really from my experience at Babson. Babson inherently is not a school for its classes. In my personal opinion, it's really about the network that you get access to in there. And so I learned early on the value of getting to know people, the value of where one conversation might lead you. And so it's a snowball effect, really. You start talking to one person who will intro you to another. And when you start making those introductions to the right people, people will want to return that favor, and you end up just meeting a lot of people. I think my network in the VC space really started increasing when I started this VC newsletter that I was writing. I had written the student investment report comparing the European student investment landscape versus the American student landscape. It started getting picked up by a couple of VCs, and I just started speaking to a lot more founders in the Boston ecosystem, and that just started snowballing. Again, once you meet one person, they'll open the door for 3 other people. Those 3 other people open the door for 9 more, and it just compounds. And by way of talking to people, you start seeing a lot of different opportunities. And so really my way was going to events, hosting events in Boston. When Genesis Fund started, we didn't have a fund yet, but we wanted to build conviction. And so to do that, it was, well, let's get our name out there. Let's get everyone talking about Genesis Fund. Let's build a community around Genesis Fund of the best builders. And so when people think about Genesis Fund, they just associate it with high quality deals. And so that's why, like, when we first started fundraising, we went to the early stage VC funds who are now our initial backers, because if an early stage VC fund is investing in us, we're doing something right. They understand that the value of what we're seeing is tremendous, and they want to get access to it too, because they understand they might not be able to get access. The student network it's very rare that you'll have an investor that is the same age as you. The incentives are so aligned at that point where we build relationships where we're friends first. And no offense, but like a 50 to 60-year-old VC is not going to be able to get down to that personal level with the founder. But we are, because we're the same age. We have the same attitudes. We're in the same circles. We party together. We work together.
And that's what everyone has been saying. The trend of Gen Z founders is really toward those people who can really relate to them and really help them in a personal way, in their personal life, and also while they're building a company. Going back to your journey where it's like you really had that drive, right? And then you built that network because you were talking to many and many people. So by talking to many people, how do you actually start? Do you just kind of talk to someone at an event and then you ask them to refer you to another person? Or how do you consistently talk to high quality and really driven people while having them want to talk with you as well?
To do it successfully, it cannot be transactional. You have to stay human and develop human relationships. If you help out out of the kindness of your heart, you want to help someone, it'll pay off in the long run. If you're doing something with the expectation that it gets returned instantly, you're not going to build good relationships. I mean, the way we look at founders is we try to be friends with them even before they started the idea. We look for talented people, start building relationships with them, hanging out, getting a coffee. Hey, do you want an intro to X person? I think they'll be really valuable to you. And then who knows, maybe 6 months down the line, they build something. And by that point, we've just been good friends. We've been talking for a while. And so I want to raise. Jules, you're the first person I'll come to. It's really about, a lot of VCs talk about being founders first, being human. It is at the very, very core of what we do. It is being human. and that pays off in long-term relationships.
Yeah. And I think the essence of this is, hey, all you gotta do is become friends with that potential founder, or just really become friends with people who are really driven in the startup ecosystem. Some people who really just want to build something because of their past experiences, because of something that maybe they experienced. And if they've experienced something maybe very traumatic or something that they truly want to change in the world, there's nothing that is going to stop them. And regardless, they are going to succeed. But if you help them, and if you're one of the early people who are their friends, who can I just say like, hey, just like Jules, hey, would you like an intro to so and so? I think they're going to be really, really helpful in your life's mission. Then 6 months later, really, you really become the friend of that person, and they would want you to back them versus anyone else. And in VC right now, just having the money is not enough. You need to have the founder choose you as well. And that really just goes back to, are you the one who's giving value and not really expecting anything in return? That is really how you do it. And for Jules, he really just like started this newsletter, which also kind of gave value, and he met so, so, so much people. Could you talk about what are some events in Boston? What are some ecosystem in Boston that a founder or an aspiring VC can really tap into?
There's two sides to the coin. Obviously, first I'll pitch Genesis Funds events. We host like bi-weekly dinners on our rooftop. We barbecue like burgers and steaks for a handful of founders every 2 weeks, and we just have a sit down, a nice dinner, no expectations of like, oh, I want to write a check or you're pitching to me. It's just bringing cool visionary people together under one table to enjoy a nice meal. Um, and then there's another side. We do like large scales events every month where it's just bringing every student founder in the community to just hang out. Everything at this point stays casual. Nothing that's too professional, that feels transactional, that feels like it's networking. It's just when cracked people get together, cool things will happen regardless. So keep it high touch, keep it high level. One thing that was great for us is good friends of ours, Sean Robbins and Enyu Rao, started a community in Boston called Launch Yard at the same time that we started our fund, and they went on this 10 or 13 university demo tour, finding the best startups in every school in like the top 13 schools in Boston. And they had immense traction. And because Enyu was kind of like my mentor when I was at Babson, Sean Robbins and Enyu both went to Babson. Enyu was in the same business frat as I was. He was 2 years older than me. And I became very close with him. And so when they started building this, the incentives were aligned. Like, you guys have this amazing community of founders and you're extremely well connected. This is a community that we'd like to tap into. And so we were very involved with them in the early days of Launchpad, of working together, being involved in events together when we were trying to get the word of mouth of Genesis Fund out. And we still to this day work very closely together. But those are the two, I think. Like, if you're thinking about events, Genesis Fund and Launchpad events are the best ones. I mean, MIT has Sunday. C House does a couple of events here and there. There's a lot of great stuff in Boston.
Yeah, and especially when, maybe you're a student. For our audience, most of you guys are students. Really go to VC funds events, and they literally post it on their website. For Genesis, it's like the best thing ever because they have it, on a consistent basis. And most VCs don't really have that. They might just have an event every now and then. But for Genesis, if you really want to meet those cracked founders, if you want to leverage your network, if you really just want to build with people who are similar to you, then just go to Genesis or even Launchart, where they really are just like the goats in building this startup community and this ecosystem. So I know that you really just had student first as an investor to connect with those founders who are really young, who are Gen Z. How about what other things really led LPs, investors to invest in Genesis Fund?
My co-GP at Yusuf, we have good stories. There's a reason. Our reason for building this goes far beyond we want to build a VC fund and we want to provide great returns. There are deep reasonings in our personal lives that make us feel like this is our end all be all. We need to build something big in this space. With VCs, I mean, with our LPs, well, on the one side for the VCs, it was showing that we have access to something you can't get your hands on, or that you'll have difficulty getting your hands on. Whereas if you put a check in us, you have direct access to it through means of us. For the individuals that we raised money from, one, the diligence part of what we were seeing was almost done because early stage VCs invested in us. But there's a core part of it that is who's driving this. And at the core, it's Yusuf and I who are driving this company forward. And our hunger to succeed and our hunger to do something very big with Genesis Fund is unsurmountable. And so I think they bought into that as well. And we'll execute on that vision and on that drive. Our LPs at the end of the day are people who believe in us as people, and we take that to heart like very strongly. We respect their respect for us, and they've been amazing champions in helping us introduce clients to the portfolio companies. And I think the most core thing is really showing our LPs that we're going to stop at nothing, and we're deeply in touch with our LPs. For example, for them, a lot of the time, like on a $5 million fund, if you're a very successful person, your check size is going to be meaningful, but to some people it might be inconsequential. But to them, it's how do I get access and more exposure to what you guys are doing? And how do I get more involved with you as people in general? And that to us is what is super valuable, is having these people who are already 40 years in their careers or in their businesses and have done tremendously well for themselves. And is having those individuals behind us that are willing to help in any way possible. And that is the most valuable. And that really comes down to who Yusuf and I are as people, as GPs, in driving this fund forward.
And when LPs are investing in a VC fund, it's the same thing like VC is investing in founders. They are investing in the people and their mission. And for Yusuf and Jules, you know, their mission goes beyond just starting a VC fund. It really is to change the world, and they are in the best position to do it as students themselves when they started it. If larger VCs have a vision, have a thesis, they're going to give it to money to really emerging managers who is going to expand on that vision. You mentioned that you were very deeply in touch with your LPs. Could you talk about how you really build relationships with people who are senior to you, people who are really, really busy, and how do you maintain that relationship really well?
One thing I learned in Babson is a big mistake that I made probably in my first 2.5 to 3 years of college. I was very formal with people that were higher up. I was very cautious of their time, reluctant to ask for things that I wanted. I quickly realized being yourself, staying casual, again, this comes back to the human element of it. If you're too polite, too respectful and everything, it feels transactional. Dear X, I'm blah, 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 and thank you so much for your time. Hey, I'm Jules. Love what you're doing. I just want to chat. Like, stay human. When you stay human, it's way easier to connect on things that you have relevancy on. And with our LPs, it's just, we try to gather, what are you interested in? Where do you like to invest? What are your hobbies? What's your family like? Just find points of relevance where we can keep touch points. Like, and just have a text, like just ring them up on the phone whenever. Hey, dude, I just found this. I think it's super interesting. I think you might like it. Let me know. And keeping those casual relationships is extremely important because at the end of the day, you want to do business with people that you like. And to know if you like someone, you've got to stay natural. You've got to stay casual. If someone feels like there's always like a mirror that you're standing behind, it's very hard to get to know the real you. And when you're getting into bed for 10 years in a VC fund, you want to make sure that that person you're getting into bed with, you actually like, and they actually like you. So staying human was very important. It always, everything comes down. Stay genuine, stay rooted. That's why we start with Boston. This is the ecosystem that we know. This is the ecosystem where we have our feet on the ground every single day. And we move around the city, work out of MIT's IHQ lab, work out of Glasswing Ventures, work out of all these different places to just stay rooted, stay in the ecosystem, stay around all these people, have our face be seen and see other people's face every day. It's very important.
It really comes down to, like Jules says, text them and call them as if they are your close friend. And everyone has some close friends of some sort. Just text them just like that. And that's how you really, really keep it casual. Even on LinkedIn or even on email, you can literally just say like, hey, you seem cool. You down to meet? And then just PS, read your post about so and so.
To the people listening, this is how me and Zhuo relationship started. Is he DM'd me on LinkedIn. I think we probably had like 3 calls before we've actually done this podcast. And there was never any expectation of like, this is like, let's get you on in a podcast, whatever. We first talked when we didn't even have a VC fund. Like we were still fundraising for, we probably had like $100,000 committed or something. Again, it's like building these human relationships with no expectations down the line. Things will just naturally come around, right? So that's how Zord and I started. And that's the playbook for everyone.
Yes. And one important thing is really staying rooted, as in you are in location, you are always like somewhere where people can find you. You are inviting, where it's like, hey, you can always find me at this bi-weekly Genesis party, or you can always find me at these events where it's like every single time, I've went to events in Boston, or my friends have went to events in Boston. We always hear about Genesis. We always hear about Yusuf and Jules. Like these guys are always in those events. And if you're always around and people know you as the go-to person, the connector, that is how you get to know the best quality people. So in essence, it really just comes down to treating people like your close friend before they even made it, or they're still working towards something. And then that's really just seeing the potential in that, right? And then afterwards, it is being there and being available around this community that you really want to be in. So talk about VC, like who is VC not for? Because lots of people want to do VC. VC is like the popular thing, but who is it actually not for?
That's a great question. I think VC is really not for people who are silent builders, who like to build in their corner, ship things fast. If you're doing that and you do VC, you're always going to have the itch to build. And so you're never going to be focused on actually developing your network and finding the best deals. You're just always going to want to be the build. For those people, if you like to stay in your corner, you're a little bit more introverted and you just like to build, go build. But don't do VC. And yeah, there's always going to be the off case that like you don't have to be extroverted to be a VC. I'm just saying, if you like to stay in your corner and build, like just keep building. Because I think a lot of things in VC, especially on the student level, it's a lot about talking and meeting as many people as you can, because that will just keep growing your circle. And the goal in Genesis is to see every single student startup deal that happens. And to do that, we need to be able to talk to a lot of people. And so you just have to have the capacity to just keep yapping and yapping and yapping. And just be down to meet people all day, every day, Saturday, Sunday, just be down to go out and meet people. Yeah. And you have to be curious as well. Like if you're not a curious person, if you have a specific niche that you're very, very interested in, and that's all you want to do, it's hard to be a VC. Like you have to be curious about people. You have to be curious about industries. You have to want to learn, because there's always going to be the founder in front of you is almost always going to be smarter than you technically. So unless you're curious, it's going to be very hard.
Yeah. A curious connector is the essence of what VC is. And obviously, like Jules says, you can be an introvert, but the difference is you should be okay with maybe even an entire day of lining up back-to-back meetings with founders and just hearing them yap. It could be during a founder meet for every of my meetings. Usually it's just like I would probably talk for like 30, maybe max 40%. And then the other 60 is a founder. The founder is supposed to be the one who tells us what their startup is and why it is going to change the world. So talk about what on earth do you do on a daily basis? And since school has started, does that change for you? Like, did you do something different in the summer versus in during semester time?
So I graduated 2 months ago. It's a night and day difference when you're balancing school and trying to build a VC versus I'm full in. Like I'm 100% of my time is just dedicated to Genesis Fund now. The GPs are all encompassing. We have our hand in every single pot as we should, but there's also certain focuses that we specialize in. I really run like we're all on the deal flow side. That is a non-negotiable. Everyone needs to be sourcing and doing deal flow, diligencing deals, etc. For me personally, I'm a lot more as well on the business side of things. Like starting a venture fund is honestly, it's very complicated and like the legal setup, the accounting, the LP management, the reporting, the taxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That takes a lot of time. I think in the early days, like we're still now, we just did our first close last week. So we're still in the process of doing all of that. So it's taking a lot of my time and I think it'll go down as we kind of close that chapter out. But the day to day is, for me, it's spending some time on that. It's organizing events, building community. So trying to figure out ways to increase our presence in Boston, whether that be through partnerships or social media. I'm actually meeting today with a social media person we're working with out of one of the hacker houses of Boston and try to like increase our presence on social media because that's where Gen Z is. And then finally, it's it's always at the end of the day doing some learning, reading certain things that you might not be well versed in on a deal that you're diligencing. Say it's nuclear, for example. We just did a nuclear deal last week. The evenings were spent all right, let me try to understand a little bit of like 15 years worth of, 6 years worth of PhD research. Let me try to condense that in like a week or two and try to understand what nuclear is. And so it's a mixture of meeting people, executing, and learning.
And how about let's go a little more specific because obviously every day is different, but give us an example of like, hey, 9 a.m. I wake up and then I do this. I go to maybe even a university to eat with a founder at like 6 p.m. or something.
Okay, yeah. Let's run through a day. Let me pick a day in my calendar right here. Okay, 8 a.m. woke up. No, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. woke up. I go for very short gym sessions. Like I get bored in there, so I do like 30 to 45 minutes typically. At 8 a.m. every morning, we have a meeting with the team, whether it be a deal sourcing stand up, so high level overview of what deals have come in, or it'd be a deep dive meeting where we go really deep into the deals that we have been seeing and kind of what are the next steps. And then on Fridays, our pipeline, LP pipeline meetings. So 8 a.m. is our morning meeting. I've just been to the gym. I just had that morning meeting. It's time for me to take a shower. So typically 8:30 to 9, I'm taking a shower. 9 to noon is like mornings are very busy with calls. So that's just either meeting ecosystem partners or founders. So typically you'd have 3 to 4 calls that last you till noon. Early afternoon is still, it's the same thing. It's just being on calls, meeting people. Kind of early to late afternoon, typically I'll have some time to start executing on the things that I need to do. So my to-do list, I just kill it in the space of like 2 to 3 hours. And then evenings, it's, all right, what dinner do I go to? What event am I going to? So for example, last week was the Babson Summer Venture Showcase. So in the evening, I went to go see what the Babson students who had just spent 12 weeks building their businesses went to pitch. and the days kind of repeat and they're kind of the same every day. Obviously, one changes more or less than another. Sometimes there's no calls and you're just executing the whole day. Sometimes you just have so many calls and you can't do any execution.
And how was it different when, you were in school? Because obviously you were meeting with founders as well. Was it between classes, or did you kind of just like specifically had it like at the end of the day and then you did homework in the morning? How did that work out for a student who's listening?
Yeah, that was really like whenever there was time, there was time. If I wasn't in classes, that is open time to do anything Genesis Fund. I really, in my final semester of senior year, I had to like make a decision. Am I trying to get good grades this semester, or am I trying to launch a VC fund? And dude, I come from a Southeast Asian family. Like grades are important. Doing well in school is very important. So to me, that was like I had to go tell my parents, like, guys, just to preface, my grades are not going to be good this semester, just because I'm not going to spend any focus or time on actually trying to do well in school this semester. I'll go do my classes. I'll do the bare minimum that gets me like good enough grades, but nothing crazy. I had to make a sacrifice of, okay, school is my second priority now. Genesis is my full priority. And I think that's okay. I was in my final year, senior year. It's whatever. I had the past years to focus on school and whatever. I got all the value I could have gotten out of it. And at the final semester, I just, okay, let me drop off school and not drop out. I was still in school, but like, let me just attend, let me just do the bare minimum and put my focus on Genesis.
Yeah, and it really does come to, am I going to sacrifice something to achieve greater things? And that decision must have been really, really hard, because I know, because I come from an Asian family as well, where, they really expect you to have like all A pluses. And if you had a B, you know what happened. And that's why it's like, it was hard, like I bet when you were talking to your parents, it was such a hard conversation that maybe you even want to dodge for a week or something.
To dodge it, but honestly, when I came forward with it, they're super supportive. They've always been very supportive, and I think I've tried multiple businesses in the past. Some have succeeded, some have failed, but I think like especially for my dad, for example, with Genesis Fund, he saw massive potential there, and so he was all on board. Just all right, whatever school, focus on this. This is something that could be huge, and no regrets, no regrets at all. And I think for a student that's looking to break into VC, if you're looking to break, obviously don't sack your school just yet. Like stay in school. School will open so many doors for you to meet crazy founders. And a lot of VCs today are moving into backing earlier and earlier and earlier founders that are earlier in their life. So like you're starting to see a lot more funds going towards college students, a lot more funds that are opening up vehicles specifically for college students. And so don't sack your school. Your school will open the doors to meeting all these other student founders. Leverage that to break into VC.
Yeah, and some VC funds actually thinking about really investing in high schoolers. And I know even like European VCs have done that as well, where it's like you would expect Europe to be a lot more traditional, but even they are doing it. So it is only going to get younger, where there are going to be cracked founders that are building amazing things and access that only their generation wants, that we would not know about unless we had talked to those founders. And obviously, when you are in school, definitely do well. Like right now, whether you're a founder or an aspiring VC, really just take your time in the afternoons, in the mornings, aside from school, to really just talk to more people, connect with more people, and really become that connector and builder yourself. So when you're giving value, people will give value back to you. And let's say, someone is meeting a founder, you know, a student is meeting a founder in their university. What are the top three things that they should look for to determine if this student is a cracked founder?
passion for what they're building, if it's all they're talking about, passion cannot be faked or replicated. It's pretty easy to tell when someone is super passionate about something. And that's one of the most important things too. Like obviously a past record of success. Like if you look at their LinkedIn and they're like, yeah, math Olympiad or I had internship at X and X, like these are signals that you know is for high achieving people. And three, just hunger. Like try to get to know them on a human level. What is their backstory? Why are they doing what they're doing? Like for me, my story is we went through it at the start. Like that is my why. Try to figure out people's why. But also like don't try to sniff out who's like cracked or who's not cracked. Like just have a normal conversation. And if you want to determine if they're cracked or not, like through the normal conversation, you should be able to decipher and then maybe do your own like diligence on the background. But really it's like you're just meeting someone to get to know them and try to build a relationship there. Maybe if you're trying to decipher like is this person worth my time? Sure. But like be open to give a chance to anyone.
Yeah, and passion really, its definition is, are you willing to suffer a bit to get something else, to go towards a higher goal? So if you're passionate about something, it really, really does show. And then are you really driven? Are you actually serious about this? So let's say, like, hypothetically, you have VC friends, right? And then you want to really just send founders, intro founders to that VC. Obviously, they got to be a kind of crack founder. So how would you determine, maybe for a founder who has like a, I guess, normal childhood, but they just think that it is cool? How do you know if they are truly serious about it beyond their passion? Or how do you know they are going to stay really, really committed?
It takes time. It's spending more time with them. I don't think it's a good idea. You met someone once and you're like, okay, let me go buy goodwill from this VC. This guy's cracked. I need to intro him immediately. Like, if you're going to intro someone to a VC to invest in a company, it should be a company that you yourself would invest in if you had the money. And to determine if it's a company you would invest in if you had the money, you probably don't make that conviction. I mean, sometimes in rare cases, someone who's very exceptional can convince you in the space of 30 minutes. But typically, it's like you want to spend more time with the person, get to know them a little bit more before you do that. So, yeah, I would say just spend more time with them first. And then if you're really, really convicted, like, wow, this person is you cannot miss this deal. This person is cracked as hell. Make an intro, because the most important thing if you're trying to build a relationship with a VC is not volume, it's purely quality. Like if 90% of the deals that you send over to VCs gets invested in, you know that your network is a gold mine. And that will go much, much, much further than if you send like a bunch of deals to the VC. They'd rather you send them one deal that they invested in than you send them like 50 deals and they invested in like 5 of them. Like quality is all that matters. And we're seeing this in the venture landscape. Like the rounds are getting bigger. The money is getting more concentrated into a certain amount of deals. And it's because even though there's less money being invested in general in VC, there's just more competition for a certain type of deal. Like everyone's been burned in like 2021 by a bunch of investments that didn't do well. And so everyone's just focusing on quality, quality, quality. And if you have access to quality, you're in a pretty good position. Like there's 2 strategies still. Like I'm very focused on quality because that's our strategy. And that's what I really believe is valuable. But there's also like for lack of a better term, the spray and pray approach, which depending on how you build out your portfolio could also make sense. If you already have a pipeline of high quality deals and you're just not the best at picking the right ones, then spraying and praying kind of ensures that you'll have your hand in every pot. And if you're already seeing the 1% of the 1%, you're gonna hit regardless if you're building it out mathematically. So there's 2 pools of thoughts. I'm much stronger on the quality things, but who's to say the other doesn't work? It's worked many times before.
Yeah, and I really truly believe that it is a quantity as well of really high quality founders in that pipeline. I know that one of my friends, Itamar Novic, he really just says that every single founder that he really meets with is someone who has been warm introed. And warm introed means that it is from a trusted friend who would only give that deal if the founder was truly worth it. And what he says is that if he had just invested in all of those founders that had been warm intro to him, he would have made like 3 times more returns than if he just kind of did what he did, which was already pretty successful because he invested in more than 6 unicorns. So spray and pray does work, but only if you really do have a high quality pipeline, like Jules says. But then you're like, okay, not too sure on which one is like the highest quality, but these are all really, really high quality founders already. So how about on your side? Could you talk about maybe 1 or 2 stories of founders that you invested in and how you met the founders that knew that they were the one?
There is a company out of the school that I went to who built micro influencer marketing campaigns at scale and whose first customers were very large enterprises. I went to school with them. I knew of them. Didn't really connect much while we were in school. We weren't in the same year, but I got reconnected with them when Sean Robbins from Launch Yard re-introed me to him saying, hey, this person's actually building now. Interesting. Then let's chat. And so we just started talking casually. And then and they ended up raising a round, and I thought what they were building was immense. And I was had very strong conviction in them because of their focus. They were locked into one industry and they knew they could kill it. And they had history of success in there. So this guy had previously built like 3 different apps in China that had garnered like 500K users plus. It's just that they couldn't figure out the monetization, but they figured out the viral strategy behind it. And to me, that was like the monetization is not the hard part of the business. It's getting it in people's hand. Monetizing after that becomes pretty simple. And so when they came to us with this new concept of what they were building, they had the monetization, the business model made complete sense. And they had the history of growing apps really quickly. And they were super passionate and completely locked in. Like this guy lives in the office. He sleeps in the office from time to time. He's locked in and he's a great person, someone that you can have real conversations with. So yeah, and so that was one of the early bets that we made, and they're doing amazingly well today. And it depends. Sometimes there's like different types of archetypes. Sometimes you just need a founder that's just super passionate about what they're building. And then sometimes you just need a person who's the best in the field. We did a nuclear deal recently, and the person we talked to was just the best at what he does. So yeah, let's do it together.
And how do you guys usually do diligence? Does that founder kind of just get warm introed and then you guys meet them and then you guys look over their pitch deck, all their background info? Or how does funding founder usually works for Genesis? Is it 4 meetings? Is it 2 meetings? Is it 12-week
Yeah.
timeline? What is it?
So we try to keep it as short as possible. We don't like just leaving it open air and letting a deal fester and then nothing ends up happening. It's either yes, let's move on, or no, like let's not move forward with this. The way it works for us is everyone sources their own deals. So whether it be inbound or outbound, we have a first call 101 with the founder. If we think there's like something really interesting there, then we'd write a 1-pager, bring someone else from the team to meet the founder or the other founders. And then if the other partner really likes it as well, okay, let's try it. And then let's present this in front of the whole team, have our whole team and their whole team meet together in one big call, bang out all the questions, get to really try to get to know them. And then we write an investment memo, which is our long research piece, trying to understand who the competitors are, what the potential obstacles might be, how we can add value to them. And then we decide to invest or not. So that's on like the diligence part of it. But us as pre-seed investors, we're way more involved into what a typical investor would do. So if we first check in, the whole goal is, okay, who do you want to invest in you? Who are your favorite investors? We'll go out for you and we'll go find those investors and raise your round hand in hand with you alongside us. What kind of talent do you want to hire? We meet talented people every single day. So we're going to plug you with the best engineering talent, the best computer science talent that you want. Who do you want your clients to be? Okay, here are a list of LPs. They're going to start plugging you up with clients. And so we're extremely hands-on, even though we're a small check size in a lot of these funds, a lot of these raises, but it works to our benefit. We buy goodwill from the founders for having done all that with no expectations. Sometimes it might mean we get a discount on the valuation, which is great for all the work that we did. Thank you for that. Sometimes it doesn't mean that, but it means we have a great relationship with the founder. And so down the line, that will always pay off. Social capital is the most valuable type of capital, in my opinion.
I agree. It really comes down to, can I trust this person? Because at the end of the day, VC is longer than the marriage. It is like a 10-year relationship before a company even IPOs. But right now, it's usually going private, or acquired, which basically means that it could even be 50 or 20-year relationship with that VC. And if you really want to choose VC as a founder, you want to choose someone who you can really bond with, even on a personal life. And this is the main leverage that Genesis really have. Talk about, are you maybe looking into founders with a little bit more specific leaning towards some industries, or are you just completely generalist?
We're generalist VC fund. We really like the infrastructure layer of things. I think we find it very exciting when someone is building a solution for an industry that is very neglected. There's a lot of opportunity there. You're in a neglected industry that is very traditional. There's very few extremely sophisticated technical talent. And so if you can be that person, you could win over an entire market, which would be very interesting. So the infrastructure layer of things is where we really like to play. There's only two things that we don't really do, and that's defense tech and biotech. Those are the two industries that we don't really look at.
And what is really being overlooked in the market right now for founders?
Go to the niche stuff. Like, I don't know. Durian farms in Southeast Asia are huge. They're generating a lot of money selling durians to China. Like in Vietnam has exploded in the durian market. I don't know. There could be some inefficiency in the durian market that you could solve with a technical solution and then sell it to every single durian farm in Southeast Asia. Or you start building your own farm and you implement your own solution, and suddenly you can start exporting durians to the US or something like that. Like, look for places where everyone's ignoring. There's a lot of value in silence. Obviously, I don't think if you pitch like a durian AI solution to a VC that they'll think it's very scalable. But when you're starting to think about your solution, think about what your beachhead is, and then how does that scale past that? So it's always take it piece by piece. The durian thing is that's the easy thing that you can target now, and then build something that could be applied to many different places within the same verticals. But always make sure that if you're trying to build something that is scalable, that is not something that you want to bootstrap, that you want to go raise money for, that you have that end goal in mind, that it could be multi-billions of dollars worth.
And that's really all it is to it. As long as you have that truly mission, that vision for your company that you want to use to really achieve that vision. And as long as you have a really scalable path towards it, then you're on a great path. Just go really, really niche. That's where you start. And then you can scale to a $1 billion company. I know you talked a bit about how to break into VC. For our viewers who needs to implement an actionable plan right away, what would be your recommended 6-month plan to fully break into VC as possibly an international student in college? And say like month one, two, three, four, five.
Okay. All right. In your first month, just get out there. Just let go of whatever you think you're cringe, you're not in the right space, I don't belong here. Let go of all of that. No imposter syndrome should ever live in you. If you're feeling imposter syndrome, that's a good sign that you're in a room where people are better than you. Stay in that room. In your first month, it should just be about getting exposure. Go to these events, start meeting people, start chatting with people with no expectation of anything in return. In month two, once you've developed these early relationships where you're probably on like your third coffee, your third video call, whatever, now it's time like, okay, I have a Rolodex of a month of people that I've met. Let me start connecting people together. Hey, you should meet this other founder, this other founder. That would be useful. In month three, you keep doing that. In month four, that's your first 3 months. Just build connection, a network of great founders that you know, that you've plugged up with other people, that know that you're a reliable person and the intros you're making are actually useful. Don't make an intro for the sake of making an intro. Make an intro if it's useful. Months 4 to 6, if your goal is by month 6 to be in a VC, this is when you start, like those 3 months is when you start really curating your deal flow. It's start thinking about it as if you were already a VC, about who do I send to what VC, specific verticals. Like if a founder is raising a round, say, hey, dude, I'd love to help you raise your round. What VCs are you targeting? And start them building the relationships with the VCs from like month 4 to 5. Build those relationships with those VCs. Month 6, just start sending deals. This is when all the deals you've built up around the last few months, all these founders that you met very early on who just had an idea that are now actually raising a round, this is when you start introducing. And so the VC specifically, and have like a structured way to do it. Like this VC invests in this. This founder wants this VC. Like segment things in different buckets so everything you do is extremely relevant to everyone. Quality, quality, quality. Don't waste people's time and they won't waste yours. And these people that you've met in the first 3 months, they will introduce you to other people as well if they like you. And over the course of the 6 months, it's so corny to say, but just be yourself. Like don't be polite. You don't have to be polite. Be a good person, obviously, be a kind person, but just be yourself. Have strong opinions about what you believe is right. Don't just say, oh, I agree. Make your own opinions. That is something that is always very valuable and interesting when you're talking to someone. Someone strongly believes in something and they have reasons to like believe the way they believe. There's more substance there to diverse and it makes them more memorable. At the end of the day, when you're having these conversations, you need to become memorable. So have something you believe in that is different from everyone else. But don't think create something that is different for the sake of being different. Like I feel like that's easy to tell. Some founders, especially like I feel like in the SF world, we're seeing it a lot now, is like they're being delusional for the sake of being delusional because they know how to play the VC games where it's like, whoa, the guy sounds crazy or this girl sounds crazy. Then there must be something to it. It's easy to cut through the bullshit.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is when you really kind of create a way where all VCs are going to invest in this type of persona, there's going to be people who tries to act like those personas to get investments. But developing that investor eyes is something that takes time. Like Jules says, the first 3 months should be really meeting those founders. And then by fourth month, you can see that some founders are going to raise. You can see that, oh, so these are type of qualities that a founder should have that investors truly invest in. So really it is building that community. It is building that ecosystem. The way I do it is obviously kind of with a WhatsApp group I started in my college where you really just have a meeting with the founder. And at the end, you ask them like, hey, what do you need right now? What is the most important thing? Do you need an intro to so and so? And then you can write down their bio, write down what they need, and then send it into a group chat. And after you send it into a group chat, all those founders that you meet, ask them, hey, would you like to be in this group chat? And if they say yes, be like, hey, would you promise to help future founders in this group chat? And also really ask for what you need yourself too. So this really just creates a cycle where everyone is helping each other. And this is how an ecosystem should start. And once you build that ecosystem, just like Jules says, that is when you can actually maybe even go for scouting roles in VC funds. And ultimately, if you sent a deal to a VC that they end up investing in, I would say you are the top 1% candidate when it comes to a spot that opens up,
Yeah.
if it opens up in the future. And that's all it is.
Yeah. And get the carry you deserve for making an intro. Like if you made an intro to a deal that was invested, try to get the carry you deserve.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now for a few rapid fire questions to really wrap up a few words or a sentence. Ready?
Let's go.
If you could invest in any startup from the past, which one would it be?
Facebook.
What is a place you haven't traveled to yet that you would love to?
Brazil.
And what is one fun fact about you most people don't know?
Fun fact about me, most people don't know. Man, I love dancing. I love going out and dancing.
What
Not
type?
like proper. What? No,
What
not
type of
like a proper type of dancing. I like to have house music blasting, and I just like to move to the beat of the sound. I can't say I'm a good dancer, but the music does something to my body where I just like to move.
And you don't need to be like, this is how you live in the world where you are yourself. And that is what people respect. That's who they truly want to have as a friend because no one is perfect at everything. And you don't have to be. There is always going to be people better than you. But if you stay true to yourself, just like Jules, then you're going to meet the great people that should become your friends in the future. Is there
Yeah.
any thoughts you want to finish or we didn't get to cover on this pod that you would like to talk about?
No one knows you better than yourself. Take advice with a grain of salt at the end of the day. What's important is that you build conviction on what you think is right. Listen to others, but don't always take advice because it comes from someone who's been successful. Build your conviction. That's the most important thing. It goes a long way.
That was amazing, Jules. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about you or your fund, what is the best place to reach you?
You can email me at jules@genesisfund.co. I respond to every single email. Thank you, Jiang, for bringing me on, man. It's been a good journey of getting to speak to you probably for the last 8 months now, 7 months, something like that. And here we are today.
Yeah, and it feels like it passed by so quick. Like just yesterday, I felt like it was like the first meeting that we had. And then now we're doing this podcast and you're helping all of these aspiring VCs really achieve their dream, especially, students who wants to become VCs and they really don't have path in because of how closed off, because of how much VC is a relationships industry. I'll put your contact info in the description. Out of everyone who are two amazing VCs in Boston that you would recommend as future guests to our podcast?
I think Yanni from Link Ventures is a really interesting person, and Habib from E14 is a really interesting investor too.
Thank you again. And thanks to everyone who's listening. Comment a question you want to hear from Jules or our next guest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to press the subscribe button, like, and share it with someone who's interested in breaking into venture. We'll see you next time on Break into VC.